This is the level 1 checkpoint video for episodes 7, 8, and 9. The current position is Y to move. Try to find the best sequence in this position and write down your answer. You may stop the video now. We're able to find a continuation in this position. So here we're looking into the episodes 7, 8, and 9. We've been looking into background checkmates, skewers, and king and pawn endgames. So here, always our checklist, any checks, captures, attacks. Any checks in the position? Not really. Any captures? We do have a capture here by grabbing the pawn. But is that good? Good enough? We can try to move into the next one, the third part of the checklist, and see if there's something better. Any attacks? We actually have an attack here if we're able to move the bishop to c3, attacking the rook, and also looking at the g7 pawn. But we have a better attack here by finding bishop f4. Bishop f4 would attack the rook, and at the same time, through X-ray vision, attacking an undefended knight in the back. So that will be the continuation, looking into bishop f4. If they were to move the rook to f5 or something, we can just capture the knight and be up a piece. The current position is Y to move. Try to find the best sequence in this position and write down your answer. You may stop the video now. We're able to find the continuation here in this position. So here, any checks, captures, attacks. We do have a check here by grabbing the pawn on a7, but they can just capture us back. But any other checks that we have in the position? Yes, we do. Actually, queen h8, very good check here. And we can see that the pawns are protecting the king, but also blocking the king with no escape squares available. And then they cannot really defend it that well. So they would have to just give up some pieces. You can capture, and then they have to give up the queen, and you can just capture the queen and give a checkmate to the black pieces. The current position is Y to move. Try to find the best sequence in this position and write down your answer. You may stop the video now. We're able to find a continuation in this position. So in this endgame position, we're totally winning, but we have to be precise with our moves. We have a few options how we can do it. There's the most precise way, but we can do a few other ways as well. So imagine if we push our pawn forward, and then they just bring their king in. If we push our pawn forward one more time, their king can always get closer to d7, and we can never just promote into a queen because they can just capture us and that will just end the game with a draw. So we have to be careful, right? If we push our pawn forward and they get closer with our king, we would have to bring our king to c5 to defend our pawn. Our pawn is blocking certain squares, we're blocking certain squares. They have to go to like e7, but then we have to we cannot just push our pawn. If we push our pawn, that will just end in a draw because they get closer to d7. We come here. Now we have to get away from our pawn or just move the king to c6, and that will just end the game with a stalemate. So we have to be careful here. Okay. So in this position, if they go to king e7, we have to bring our king to b6, because if they have king d8, now we just have king b7 and we're blocking these squares, and wherever the king goes, we can just push and promote into a queen. Okay. So we have to be careful. The most precise way I would think here would be to just shoulder the black king by bringing the king to d5. So if the king goes to like f6 or something, you can always just shoulder the king, always blocking these squares. If they go up there, you can just bring your pawn forward. If they go with king e8 or something, we can just push our pawn. And now the pawn is blocking these squares. King is blocking these squares. Only move will be like f8 or f7 for the king, and then you can just promote into a queen. The current position is Y to move. Try to find the best sequence in this position and write down your answer. You may stop the video now. We're able to find a continuation here in this position. So here we're dealing with a very big problem, and we have to always keep in mind that whenever there are like extra pawns or pieces blocking or protecting the king in front of them, but not letting him escape anywhere, that's considered a background problem. So here, if we're able to just sacrifice our knight, or not sacrifice, but capturing the bishop here, the black pieces cannot capture the bishop back. What happens if they capture the bishop back with the pawn or with the rook? It doesn't matter. We always just have checkmate here because like the pawns are blocking the king. Like there are no escape squares available. They just have to give away the rook, and you can just like end the game with the checkmate. So for example, in this position, after you capture the knight, they would have to just go ahead with the move c5, giving some breathing room for the king, and then you can just bring your knight back and then win the game from here. The current position is Y to move. Try to find the best sequence in this position and write down your answer. You may stop the video now. We're able to find the continuation in this position. So here we're looking into any checks, captures, attacks, any checks. We don't have any checks. Any captures that we do have a capture here by grabbing the knight, but that doesn't really do much, right? But here we actually have this great attack with the bishop, attacking the queen, and then attacking the rook in the back. So this will be considered a skewer, right? Because the queen will have to move somewhere, and now you can just be up the exchange by grabbing the rook on g8. The current position is white to move. Try to find the best sequence in this position and write down your answer. You may stop the video now. We're able to find the continuation in this position. So this is an endgame position. We have king and pawn, and we have to be precise with our moves, but we have a couple options of how we can do it. So one of the options will be to bring the pawn to b6. If they capture us back, we don't capture back on b6, because now the king can always just get closer and then grab our pawn, and this will end the game in a draw. So we have to be precise here. Yes, we're giving away a pawn or whatever, but now we have to consider the move a6, not capturing back. But now if the king tries to get closer, the pawn just runs, and the king never gets in time to capture the pawn back. The second option for this one would be to go with pawn a6. Pawn a6 fixes the pawns, and they can never push the a7 pawn forward. If they were to bring their king up to get closer to defend the pawns and the promotion squares, we can actually go with the move b6, right? If they get closer or something, we always can capture the pawn here on a7, and these pawns are protecting the squares, and whatever the king moves, you can just promote into a queen. And what happens if they capture us back here? Now we can just push our pawn forward to a7, and the king can never get closer because we can just promote into a queen.